welcome back. Okay, the day cometh, here it is. Going to flat down and polish this now. The next stage on the bodywork job is to take some 2000 or 1500 and then 2000 grit paper, rub all this down and get all the shine off it. It seems a bit counterproductive, but you have to do it because the surface is ripply. It's the surface that came out of the spray gun. We did not, as you could see, we did not paint this in ideal conditions. This is not a spray booth. We didn't have a negative vacuum extractor or anything like that. We just did it in a home garage, and that always leads to a few issues. There's a couple of little bits of trash in it that I've got to rub out with a block, but fundamentally this is a case of busting all this surface off with a nervy thing. Got to be very, very careful. It's a slow process, a gentle process with lots of water and soap in the water to help it glide. And I've been doing this for a long time. Mackie is the artist, he's the guy with the talent, or practice as he pronounces it, and he's the one that made this stunning artwork. But for many years, since I was about 16, which is a very long time ago, I've been flattening and polishing paintwork, so this is something I got this is no problem. And it's just a case of being really careful, not touching the edges so you don't go through anything. There are 4 thick wet coats of clear on this, and I'm only rubbing it down with a 1500 grit and a 2000 grit paper, which is very fine. I'm only taking probably 10% of the top coat off, that's all. I'm not going through it at all, but you do still have to be very careful on the corners and edges that you don't go through more than you expect to. So you actually don't rub the edges at all, you rub up to them and then you just stroke across the edge and you'll take it out easily, no problem at all. So be very careful. Any little pieces, any little dimples I find, I've got to get that on a block and just gradually stroke that out so it's gone. Just generally make it perfect, but when I finish this, it will all be in a matte finish, which won't look very nice, but then it's just got to be polished. I've ordered a buffer. I'm going to actually machine buff this so it comes up like a glass finish, and that's something that hasn't arrived yet. That'll arrive later in the week. So today I'm just going to do the sanding back. Now, according to what the maestro himself said, if you want an absolutely perfect finish, leave it a day after sanding it. So I'm going to sand this down today and nothing more. Just going to sand it all back, get it all in a matte finish, and then stop. It's still going to be about a 4-hour process just to sand all this down carefully, so that's still going to take plenty of time. The reason to leave it, as Mackie said, is that it can sometimes reactivate the curing process, and that can then mean that the surface that you have created will change very slightly. So I'm going to sand it down, leave it to settle, and then I can get the buffing creams on it and the polish out, and I'll make that glass finish afterwards. Just gives it time to settle. I want a show-winning finish on this. I'm going to take this bike to bike rallies and shows, and possibly even stand it in a show and hold it up to judging, and I think it is definitely worth it. So let's get rubbing and make it the best I possibly can. Welcome back. Right, equipment for the job. We're going to start with this, which is 1500 grit paper, extremely fine. You don't even feel rough at all. It's very smooth. We're going to use that. We're going to use soapy water. Now, those of you who know this, you know that's the right way to do it. You put the soap in the water, and that helps it glide over the surface. Not too much, but it helps it glide and slide over the surface, and it stops it sticking, which makes grooves and lines in it. It just makes the whole job a little bit better. Here we are, soapy water. And I'm going to use a hand, just for the large areas, just going to use my hand rather than a block. The danger with a block is that because it's so harsh, a block could go through corners and edges. You have to be really careful. I'll only be using a block on little dimples and things like that I've got to take out. Just going to start right on the top there. Really gentle pressure, just the weight of my hand, not even that. Now you can possibly hear it change. You hear that hissing. And if I come over here where I haven't touched, there we are, start with there. You can actually hear the noise it makes changing, and that's a sign that it's cutting. Lots and lots of water. And that stops anything that you're sanding off clogging up and scratching the surface with big deep grooves. Right, if you ever do this yourself, you can feel it. You can literally feel when it's ready. That's kind of not touched yet. It's kind of a bumpy, ripply plastic feel to it, and this just feels like glass. Superb. I'll show you what it looks like. top of that off. You can see straight away that's gone matte, which is what we're looking for. Get all that off there. Right there. Okay, I think that has taken roughly an hour just to do that one. And it's just a case of getting all the shine, bust all the shine off. So it's all gone, all the ripples, the orange peel, everything gone, just to a satin finish. Areas on the edges, some of the little edges I've just left it because when the buffing cream gets in there, that will take care of that, no problem at all. Like that edge there, still got a shine to it. No need to go into that, it's just risky. So there we are. It's good. To the next bit. That's what I'll do. There we are, all over, flattened down, no shiny bits, any little imperfections taken out. Still going to go with this with the 2000 paper, which will get it less matte. It will be tiny, a little bit more sheen to it, and then that's right for polishing. And that's the second bit. Let's get the side panels. Amazing, takes all the imperfections out. There's a little bit more depth to rub there, but I'm going to do that with the 2000 paper because the 1500's a little bit more aggressive. Right. The tank in a minute, Ben.
Yeah.
Can't wait for that one.
No.
It's a shame to bust all that gloss off, doesn't it? Right, let's get at it. There we are. That's it. Now that's the most again I'm going to do on that. The 2000 paper will take it a bit further and leave it a bit smoother. But that's got all the orange peel out off the main areas. Let's get on with the tank. Best bit. Right. Okay, you joined me about an hour and a half into the tank. This is, if you had Feely vision, this is amazing. That's it flatted down with a 1500 paper. As you can see, it's gone completely satin. Let's spin it around. I've done all of the side, all of that up to there. As you can see on this, just a quick one, I actually haven't rubbed that ridge. I've rubbed up to that ridge and down to that ridge, but I've left the ridge itself, mainly because ridges and creases are extremely vulnerable, and it's seconds, you'll go straight through that almost to the bare undercoat. So almost, I never rub them. I've done lots and lots of flattening down, as I said. This is something I am experienced at, and that's something I've always practiced. Don't rub down ridges at all with the paper. Rub up to them one way, up to them the other, and just the accidental overlappage, and when you're doing the polishing, just the overlapping with the polisher will be more than enough to make that a glass finish. You do not have to rub that with sandpaper. Obviously if there's a blemish on it or something, then you do, but you know what I'm saying. But there we are. You can see actually as well, if you can come up close so you can hear it. If I rub my hand on this, and then on the undone bit, This is just beautiful. It just glides because it's completely flat, absolutely flat, and this has still got a horrid plasticky feel to it. And one thing I've noticed is I've always done rattle can clear in my painting career, for whatever that means, and I've never really used 2K. I've never manipulated 2K, but this stuff is amazingly hard. It's taking 4 times the work. It just doesn't mark at all. You can't thumbprint it, nothing. Even fingernail marks, nothing. So it's tough as you like, and that's done one thing for me which I'm really looking forward to, and that's the confidence with which I will handle the bike and use the bike. No worries at all. You're never going to worry that your paint job is fragile, because I know it's not fragile because I'm spending the hours rubbing it down. It's absolutely rock hard. Right, so here we are. We've gone through about 8 sheets of paper now. The paper doesn't last forever. When you feel, there's a certain thing that I learned from Milo. I mentioned Milo along many times. Milo Garage. He was a friend of mine years ago. I think we all loved him. He was a YouTube creator and sadly passed away about 2 or 3 years ago. He was a paint specialist, and I learned a lot. He used to impart little gems of knowledge, and one of them was with the paper, lots and lots of things. One of them was with paper. When you're rubbing with the paper, you will feel, when you're rubbing over this sort of plasticky, unrubbed surface, you'll feel a glide to it, especially with the soapy water. You feel a glide, and you don't hear much, it's quite quiet. As soon as it cuts, as soon as the paper starts to cut through and you get into this flat, it will start to hiss and you start to create a drag. So this tends to slip. It's very easy to glide over it when you're rubbing down that. That's very easy. As soon as you've rubbed down, you start to feel the paper develops a drag. You can feel a drag to it, and the more that drag increases, the more you know you've gone through and to stop. So there's a lot of feel about this. When you're rubbing stuff down, if you want to do this yourself, I'm just trying to give you a little tip if you want to do it yourself, it's all about the feel. As Milo said, it's about the drag. If you just rub it down gently, when the drag starts to increase and becomes uniform, you'll have a wet hand, and with your wet fingers, you feel it, and you'll feel it. You will feel it. You'll know immediately. It's like absolute silk, just like glass. Superb. Anyway, I'm going to carry on. What do you reckon, man?
Keep going.
Let's keep going. Lots more to do. Again, the soap is in the water to act as a lubricant. It helps the paper to glide over the surface, and it helps all of the impurities and the paper and the dust that you're sanding off, because there is dust, it's all just in the water. Helps it to slip away without bunching up into little lumps and scratching the surface. Lots and lots of soapy water. I'll just show you that. So just work that back. Check it often. You don't need to go too far, as you can see with that. Where are we? You see that, Ben? Just about. There it is. Now on this edge, still more to do. A couple of little imperfections here. We're going down through. You can spot them. And then this edge, but that bit in the centre I've done, so I'll lay off that. So you can just feel it as you go. That's the advice from Mackie as well. Make sure you constantly keep checking, keep wiping it clean, wiping it dry, checking where you are so you're not overdoing it, because you all need to take off is just the top layer. Again, not rubbing this edge, you don't need to, just go up to it only. Right, so that's been about 4 hours so far, and we've got it all flatted down in 1500. That was the 1500 paper. That's the stuff that so far has given me this finish. You can even see a sheen to it, and it feels just flawless. Every little tiny dimple has gone, every bit of trash has gone, little bits of dust and stuff that were in it. There were no runs in it, so no runs to block out. And now what we're going to do is go to the 2000 grit paper. So I reckon I've got about another 3 hours to rub all this down again from scratch with 2000 grit. The reason for that is to take out the scratches on this. This has now got microscopic scratches all over it of a 1500 grit depth, and I want to reduce those to a 2000 grit depth, and then after that we can go to abrasive creams and polish, and I can polish it up now. I have ordered a buffer to do this. I'm jolly well hoping it turns up in time, because that buffer is going to save me so much labour. This is so hard, it's so rock solid. It's going to take forever to do by hand, and I'll end up with arms the size of Garth, so maybe not a bad thing. But I'm going to get on with this. There's no need for me to film all this. I'll show you at the end what that looks like. I'm going to sit down and let that rest, start again on the first piece that I did, and start rubbing this down 2000, and then at the end of that, hopefully we can call it done. Let's put this back, let's get the other bit. Right, deja vu pen. Okay. Makes a difference. Oh, that feels really different. The 2000 grit has got a lot more glide, so a lot less drag. That's why I call it, which is all correct. There's less to take off this time. There's less material to cut back, so this shouldn't take as long. Hope.
We'll see you in about 3 hours.
See you in about 3 hours. What's it now? 2:30. Well, there we are. It ended up another 4.5 hours. 6:30 now. Started the 2000 grit at 2:30. It's just how long it takes. So 8 hours to flat this down. And I guess there's a lot of it, but I'm learning as I go with this, because what I've discovered is that as you flat it down with the finer and finer paper, it starts to shine. And I want to just do this now and show you. It's going to wipe all the wet off, and I'll show you the amount of shine on this already, and all it's had on it is 2000 grit paper. Lots of soapy water and 4 hours, just gently going at it. It's a repetitive process, takes ages. It's a bit numbingly boring. Even Penny went out and did some shopping.
I did.
But there we are, that's done. Let's just dry this off and I'll show you what it looks like. Here we are, all buffed off clean. As you can see, just looking at it, it's got a shine to it already, and that is a sandpapered finish. That's amazing. It truly is. Now this is great because it's really, really hard. It's taken quite a lot to do this. It probably took an hour and a half going over that. The last time when I had the 1500 finish, it was definitely a satin finish. Now this with the 2000 stuff, you can see it's literally gone shiny. That's smooth. There's no texture to it at all. It's silk. It's like glass. It feels beautiful. So all I need now is the G3, then the G compound, the G3 compound, then G10 compound, which are finer and finer compounds. That will buff it right up, and then polish wax after that, and it's just going to glow like glass. It really is. I'm going to have to put it on the bike for that, because obviously I want to hold it still, because you need to lean on it a bit, get a little bit of buff action going on in there, and it does take quite a lot to hold them still. And as I've used this, as you see, the big fat foam pads, they work fantastically. They protect the tank from getting damaged, and that's great for a tank. But the side panels, especially the rear tail unit where it's all flexible and long like that, that'll be much better if I just bolt it on the bike, fix it at all its points, and then it won't move, and I can lean on it, polish it right up. So in the next video, I'll bolt it all on the bike and start waxing, polishing it, buffing all this up to a glass shine, which I'm sure you want to see. I'm sorry it wasn't in this video. I know that's probably what you tuned in to see, but this is the length of the process of these things. It really is. It does take an awful long time. Probably, I think this was 8 hours today, just to get these 5 pieces all flatted back to a perfect finish, ready for polishing. Another 8 hours, so that's 48 hours roughly on this job so far. But I am very, very confident, because this is absolutely rock hard, this stuff. And I love that, because it's not going to be fragile. It'll give me a great confidence living with the bike day to day. Chuck a pair of gloves on the tank, putting fuel in, catch it, knock against it, jacket, cuff, sleeve. You know, you're not going to worry all the time that it's terribly fragile, because you know that the lacquer over the top of this, it's just granite. It's just rock solid. It's took 8 hours to rub that back. If that was rattle can lacquer, it would have took an hour and a half. So that's the difference. It really is of using proper hardener added 2-pack lacquer, which is definitely a bonus. Don't you, Ken?
Yep, this looks
Should we call it
stunning.
done?
Your arms need a break.
Yeah, my arms need a break. I need a shower. I've been at this 8 hours rubbing. That's it for today. Anything else?
Thank you.
There you go. Thanks for watching. Take it easy. Ride safe. See you next one for polishing.